The sharp, deafening crash of shattering glass echoed through the grand atrium of the mall. Silence instantly fell over the usually bustling holiday crowd. Hundreds of eyes turned toward the center of the VIP lobby. There I stood. My calloused hands were still tightly gripping the wooden handle of my yellow mop. Scattered all around my worn-out work boots were the glittering, jagged remains of a custom-made crystal vase. It was a masterpiece that cost more than $50,000. And standing right in front of me, his face turning an angry shade of purple, was Mr. Sterling. He was the floor manager. He pointed a trembling, manicured finger directly at my chest. His voice echoed across the cold marble floors, loud enough for everyone to hear. He called me a clumsy, worthless fool. He declared that I had deliberately destroyed corporate property. He threatened to call the police and have me thrown in a jail cell before the sun went down. But what hurt the most wasn't the threat of a cold cell. He leaned in close, spitting the words quietly, so only I could hear. He told me he was going to seize every single penny of my paycheck. He said my year-end bonus was gone. That was the money I had been scraping together for 11 long months. That was the money meant to buy my little girl her first real winter coat and a decent holiday dinner. I felt a freezing knot tighten in my stomach. But I didn't drop to my knees. I didn't beg for mercy. I looked him dead in the eye. I vow before my conscience, right now, crystal may shatter on the ground, but my self-respect is as clear as jade. It will never be cracked by any dirty force. Hit the subscribe button to stand tall and proud with us. My name is Arthur. I have been a janitor at this luxury shopping center for 3 hard years. My days start before the sun even thinks about rising. I take the first bus across town in the freezing morning air. By 6 in the morning, I am already pushing my heavy supply cart across the vast, empty corridors. I know every crack in these expensive tiles. I know exactly which spots catch the morning light. I take real pride in my work. I truly do. It is hard physical labor. It is dirty work that most people look right through. But I always keep a smile on my face. When the heavy glass doors open, I greet the shop owners. I help elderly folks find the hidden elevators. I wipe up spilled ice cream so excited kids don't slip. I do it all because honest work is good work. And I do it for my daughter, Lily. Every push of the heavy mop is for her. Every ache in my lower back is just a reminder of why I am here. But my positive attitude has always been a thorn in the side of Manager Sterling. Sterling is a man who measures human worth by the price tag on their shoes. He wears custom Italian suits and smells of expensive cologne. But his character is completely rotten. He is known among the maintenance staff as a tyrant. He constantly finds fake reasons to dock our minimum wage pay. He skims off the performance bonuses that corporate allocates for the blue-collar workers. He pockets the extra money while we break our backs to keep his floors shining. He targets the weak. He targets people who don't have the power or the voice to fight back. People exactly like me. For months, he had been trying to find a solid reason to fire me. He hated that I never cowered when he yelled. He hated that I just smiled, cleaned up the mess, and wished him a good day. He wanted to see me broken. And with the year-end bonuses coming up next week, he found his perfect opportunity to get rid of me and keep my share of the money. It was the busiest Friday of the entire year. The mall was absolutely packed with holiday shoppers. The VIP lounge area had just been newly renovated. Right in the center of it stood a sleek, modern display table. On top of that table rested the absolute pride of the mall, a towering, intricate crystal vase, on loan from a famous international artist. It caught the overhead lights and threw rainbows across the white walls. Around 2 in the afternoon, Sterling walked over to the VIP area. I was quietly emptying the trash bins a few feet away. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw him do something very strange. He looked around to see if anyone was watching him. He didn't realize I was standing right behind the tall potted palm trees. He crouched down by the heavy display table. He reached under one of the metal legs. He twisted the leveling foot, just enough to make the table dangerously unstable. Then, he carefully pushed the heavy crystal vase, right to the very edge of the glass surface. It was balancing on a knife's edge. One slight bump. One heavy footstep nearby. That was all it would take to send it crashing down. He stood up and smoothed his expensive silk tie. Then, he turned and locked eyes with me. He marched over. His face twisted into a cruel, arrogant sneer. He pointed at a tiny, invisible speck of dust near the base of the wobbly table. He told me I was a lazy, incompetent fool. He ordered me to get my mop and clean the space right under the table. He said if I didn't make the marble shine like a mirror in the next 60 seconds, I was fired on the spot. I knew exactly what he was doing. I saw the trap laid out in plain sight. I could see the heavy vase trembling just from the vibrations of people walking by. But I had a family to feed. I desperately needed this job. I gripped my mop tight. I walked over. Slowly. I was barely breathing. I didn't even touch the table. I gently slid the mop over the tile. I kept a full 3 inches away from the metal legs to be safe. But Sterling wasn't going to let his wicked plan fail. As I was focused on the floor, he took a sudden step forward. He pretended to inspect my cleaning work. As he stepped past me, the heavy heel of his leather shoe struck the leg of the table. It was a hard, deliberate kick. The table lurched forward aggressively. Time seemed to slow down entirely. I dropped my mop and reached out both my hands. I tried my best to catch it, but it was too heavy, and it was falling way too fast. The crystal hit the hard marble floor. It exploded into 1,000 glittering pieces. The sound was like a small bomb going off. People screamed in shock. Security guards came running from every direction to secure the area. Sterling immediately began his theatrical performance. He threw his hands in the air. He shouted at the top of his lungs. He called me a careless, stupid idiot. He told the arriving security guards that I had recklessly rammed my heavy cleaning cart right into the table. He swore he saw the whole thing happen with his own eyes. The crowd started murmuring among themselves. They looked at my dirty uniform and my worn-out boots. They looked at his expensive suit and his polished badge. They believed him instantly. Why wouldn't they? He was the absolute authority here. I was just the invisible guy who cleaned the toilets. He looked at me with cold, triumphant eyes. He whispered under his breath that I was finished. He told me my Christmas money was going straight into his pocket to cover the massive damages. He said I was going to rot in a cell for this. I stood there alone, in the middle of the mess. My heart was pounding fiercely against my ribs. I thought about Lily, waiting for me at home with a smile. I felt a massive wave of immense injustice washing over me. But I refused to lower my head in defeat. I refused to accept a crime I did not commit. Before the malicious traps of deceitful people in the workplace. What iron pillar helps you maintain your integrity through the storm? Please write your sincere sharing in the comments section below. Sterling pulled out his heavy black walkie-talkie from his belt. He demanded the police be called immediately. He wanted to make a public spectacle out of me. Right then and there. He wanted every other worker in the building to see what happens when you cross him. But before the security chief could even respond on the radio, a calm, authoritative voice cut through the chaos. That will not be necessary. The murmuring crowd parted. Like the Red Sea. A woman stepped forward into the center of the mess. She wasn't wearing a flashy designer dress or dripping in diamonds. She wore a simple, elegant gray winter coat. But the moment Manager Sterling saw her, all the arrogant color drained completely from his purple face. He suddenly looked like a frightened, guilty little boy. It was Eleanor Vance. She was the billionaire chairwoman of the massive corporation that owned this entire mall. She had been walking through the holiday crowds completely unnoticed. For the past 2 hours, she was doing one of her famous undercover quality inspections. Sterling immediately rushed over to her, his polished shoes crunching on the broken crystal. He bowed so low. He almost hit his head on the floor. He started stammering, desperately trying to weave his web of malicious lies. He pointed a shaking finger at me and called me a negligent, dangerous liability. He claimed he was just protecting the company's valuable assets from my sheer incompetence. Miss Vance did not even look at him. She kept her sharp, intelligent eyes fixed right on me. She saw that I wasn't shaking in my boots. She saw that I wasn't begging for forgiveness for a crime I didn't commit. She saw that I was looking right back at her, with a clear conscience and an unbroken spirit. She raised one single hand, and Sterling instantly snapped his mouth shut. "Mr. Sterling," she said, her voice quiet but echoing clearly off the high marble walls, "you seem to have forgotten the internal memo I sent out last Monday." Sterling looked utterly confused. "What memo, ma'am?" he asked nervously, sweat forming on his forehead. "The one regarding the new security upgrades for the VIP sector," she replied smoothly. She turned her attention to the head of mall security who had just arrived. "Pull up the new 3D wide-angle camera feed on the main lobby display right now." Sterling's eyes widened in sheer, unadulterated terror. He didn't know about any new cameras. He thought the old analog cameras in this specific corner were broken and blind. That was exactly why he chose this precise spot to set his wicked trap. Within seconds, the massive digital advertising screen suspended above us flickered to life. Instead of cheerful holiday commercials, it showed a crystal-clear, high-definition recording of the last 10 minutes. The entire mall watched the screen in absolute, breath-holding silence. They saw me quietly and diligently emptying the trash bins in the background. They saw Sterling sneak over to the display table, checking over his shoulder like a thief. They watched him twist the metal leveling foot until the table wobbled. They watched him carefully push the $50,000 vase to the very edge of the glass surface. And then, in undeniable high definition, they saw his shiny leather shoe deliberately kick the metal leg. A collective gasp ripped through the massive crowd. The truth was right there, glaring and glowing on the giant screen, for the whole world to see. Sterling began to back away slowly, his hands trembling. He was sweating profusely, staining the collar of his expensive custom shirt. He tried to laugh it off, stammering that it was just a strange accident or a misunderstanding. But Miss Vance was not smiling at all. "You intentionally destroyed a priceless masterpiece, just to frame a hardworking man," she said coldly. "And you actually planned to steal his holiday wages to cover your own tracks." She gestured firmly to the mall police officers standing nearby. "Arrest this man for malicious destruction of corporate property, attempted fraud, and workplace extortion." The security guards, who had suffered silently under Sterling's tyranny for years, did not hesitate for a single second. They grabbed his arms and slapped the heavy steel cuffs on his wrists, right there in the lobby. Sterling was actually crying now, sobbing uncontrollably. He begged for his job. He pleaded for a second chance, promising he would pay for the vase. But nobody listened to his pathetic lies anymore. The crowd erupted into massive, roaring applause as the police dragged him away toward the exit. It felt like a dark, suffocating cloud had finally been lifted from the entire building. Miss Vance walked over to me. She completely ignored the broken glass crunching under her own expensive shoes. She reached out and gently took the heavy yellow mop from my calloused hands. Then, she extended her right hand to me, in a gesture of profound respect. "I have watched you work for the past hour, Arthur," she said warmly, her eyes full of genuine appreciation. "You treat people with genuine kindness, even when they don't notice you. You have a kind of unshakable integrity that all the money in the world simply cannot buy. We need leaders like you in this corporation, not tyrants like him." She looked around the lobby, making sure everyone could hear her next words, loud and clear. "As of this exact moment, you are no longer a janitor. You are the new VIP customer service manager for this entire luxury facility. And your very first task is to take the rest of the week off, with double your expected holiday bonus. Tears finally welled up in my tired eyes. I couldn't hold the heavy emotions back anymore. The crushing weight of the last 3 years just melted away into the marble floor. In your opinion, what is the profound social meaning when a powerful corporate leader personally steps down to protect the dignity of a poor worker? Please leave a short, civilized comment below. Lord, may your justice always shine to scatter the dark shadows of deceit. May it protect the peaceful sleep of poor children, and free them from gloomy fears. Hit subscribe to join us in spreading this saving light. That evening, I walked through the front door of my small apartment. The house was warm, and the familiar smell of winter pine was in the air. My little girl, Lily, came running down the narrow hallway, as fast as her legs could carry her. She jumped right into my arms, with a squeal of pure delight. I hugged her tighter than I ever had before, burying my face in her soft hair. I pulled the official corporate promotion letter from my jacket pocket. I showed her the bonus check. That meant we were going to have the absolute best Christmas ever. We could finally get her that thick, warm red coat she wanted. She didn't really understand what all the big words on the paper meant, but she saw the pure, unburdened joy shining in my eyes. She knew her daddy had won the hardest battle of the year. We sat by the frosty window, watching the snow fall gently outside under the streetlights. I realized something very important that cold winter night. The world can be a very cold, unforgiving, and deeply unfair place. People will try to break you down, just to build themselves up on your ruins. They will lay hidden traps, and smile right to your face while they wait for you to fall. But if you keep your heart clean and your hands honest, the truth will eventually become your greatest, most impenetrable shield. Hard, honest work is never truly invisible, even when you feel like nobody is watching. Integrity is the one priceless thing nobody can ever steal from you, unless you willingly hand it over. Even the darkest, most carefully constructed lies will eventually crack and shatter under the bright, piercing light of reality. The dark shadows of deceit may be cunning and manipulative, but the light of truth will always shine brilliantly. Please comment a warm wish to further heat up the steadfast, iron journey of me and my daughter. Thank you for listening to my story.